Well, my name is Sarah Dudash, and I've been involved with PSSU for 20 some years. I started out as just a caseworker at the welfare office in Lawrence County and became active in the union very quickly because I believe in the union. The union is very important to the middle class. It's the only way the middle class can stay uh, in the ball game, as they say, because that's our powers in numbers, and that's the only way that the middle class can have any strength is when we are in a union. I had many jobs before I became a union member, and you were always at the mercy of your employer. You are much better off if you have a contract as a controlling your raises and your job functions and what you can and can't do. So I've been active for 20 some years, and then I became the chief shop steward and different jobs in my chapter. And then I was a chapter chair for 9 years. I retired about 3 years ago from the state welfare office, but then I became more active because I had more time, and I just keep doing what I can do. I'm also active with the Beaver Lawrence Central Labor Council, and through the council, I've become a active employee with AFL-CIO, and I'm what is called a labor liaison for them with between the unions and the council in my area. So right now, I'm committee chair for the Community Services Committee, and hopefully we can get that committee active because that's how we show the community what just the union members can do to help everybody. Union members are not for union people. Union members are for everybody, and that's what's important for everybody to realize. The thing members have to understand is when they say a union is the members, that's telling the truth. A union person needs to think of themselves as the whole group, as a community. We stick together, we work together, then we can get things accomplished together. And no man is an island, and that's where we need to reach out to the other people in the community and your local legislators. All our jobs are dependent on the political activities in Pennsylvania and sometimes the federal government. With my years at the welfare office, we were totally bound by what happens in government. And many of the local agencies who are many of our members, they're tied to the legislative actions. So you have to make sure that you stay in contact with your political representatives in your area. You need to participate in your central labor councils. When there's rallies, you need to think about what you can do to participate in these rallies, not just for PSSU, but for everybody in the community. We're here, especially as my background was the welfare office, so I could see the need in the community. I'm sure many of these local agencies, you can also see the need in your community. You need to be out there and you need to give a face to the union and show the union that you are there to represent everybody. You're not there to make sure you get a raise in your paycheck. You're there to make sure everybody gets a raise in their paycheck and that they have decent benefits and a living wage. To me, that's what unions is about. It's not about what I can get, but what about we can get, what will help us as a community. So you need to build relationships because that's the only way you can get anything done effectively. Yeah, I mean, it's important for us to get our message across. And our message is that we're here to help everybody, not just ourselves. And yes, that involves if you need to participate in your school, if you need to participate in Girl Scouts, whatever is out there in your community, and you need to, like I said, to me, I think it's very important to become involved with your central labor councils because that involves all the unions in your community, and that involves a grassroots to help people understand that we're all together in this. And the only way we can get anything accomplished is power is in numbers. But yes, anybody in that community, you need to put on a union hat. If like I'm a volunteer for the Red Cross also. If I do a Red Cross thing, I make sure I wear my union t-shirt so that people understand that I'm there in the community, but I'm there as a union member. I would like to do a statewide ring the bells for Salvation Army. That's one of my goals as a community services committee. So yes, you want to participate in what you can, But not every member is capable of doing that. So you need to understand what your limits are and what you can do, and then participate in what you feel comfortable with. You never push yourself on anybody. You never get aggressive. You never get into fights, because that won't help anything. You have to understand what the other person's position is and to come around to make them understand what your position is. But you don't push it on them. You have to use finesse, as they say. You have to understand where the other person may be. They may be at the other end of the echelon. So you have to figure out what is the best way to get them to come to your side, and for them to understand what the meaning is. And a lot of times people just think unions are greedy, and you got to get that notion out of their mind and make them understand that we're here to help everybody. When we always contacted our legislators in our community, for one thing, whenever there's an issue coming up and you want to talk to a legislator, you need to make sure you call and make an appointment ahead of time. You just don't show up at an office. And it's always good to submit whatever your requests are in writing. You need to have anything in writing, because you need to have a tracking of it. And maybe a deadline on when that legislator can get back to you on what their resolution or their thoughts is. To me, another good thing was always petitions, because if you do a petition and submit it to your local representative, they make it that makes them understand that it's just not you with this issue, that it's a whole office or a whole gambit of what you think is necessary to progress your job. So I think petitions are excellent. The other thing is you make sure you document everything. You can't just put everything in words. And with legislators, it's important to be polite, on time, and to not waste their time. Hopefully we'll have a few lobby days that we can take advantage of hitting them in Harrisburg. But they all have offices in their home cities or counties, and you need to make sure that they stay involved and are aware of your issues and problems. I know like the welfare offices with the worker shortage, that we made sure all our legislators were made aware of that. There's been times when I've sent them proof of how many employees we had at one time and how many employees we have now, and what the number of caseloads that they have to carry. And that's important. You have to show the legislators that you know what you're talking about. Never go in without having an agenda. And if you can, you could submit that agenda to the legislator before you go to the meeting. That way they're aware of what they're going to be talking to you about. And make sure that you have a way for that legislator or representative or even county commissioner to get back to you with a reply to your request or problems. That way you have some kind of rapport with them. But always be polite. Always remember, in a lot of ways, they're our boss. You know, as a county worker or a state worker, legislators are the ones that control our jobs. Well, of course, through your CLC, you have a lot of political, how do you want to say? Well, we have to, yeah, well, and you have to actually, for the CLCs, you have people come in and actually talk to the councils to see who they're going to endorse. Now, as a state employee, you have to remember that you are hatched. And when I say hatched, that means you cannot come out and endorse a candidate. You can only, I always say, my saying is, I can say who I'm going to vote for, but not who you're going to vote for. So you have to be very careful of that. You cannot endorse a candidate. You cannot work on their campaigns. You cannot do phone banks. Technically, we are to stay away from anything that's showing that we have a support for a certain candidate. But you can stay neutral, and you can tell this candidate that there are a lot of union members, and if we hear that you're campaigning for what we need, then of course that's going to make a difference. But you can't say, I'm going to support that candidate. And I can say I'm a registered Democrat, but I can't say I'm going to vote for such and such. I'll tell you what I've run into, and I've had politicians come to our welfare office and talk to us, but then you also have to be very careful in what you do. And if it's sometime a subject that can be very heated, we've had politicians attacked at our office, and you don't want that to happen. You want to make sure that before that politician comes into the office that your workers understand that this is a congenial meeting and not a confrontational meeting, because it does not bode well for the workers if it turns into and we had one that turned out like that, and it was bad. You have to, if that happens, you have to work your way back to having a congenial relationship with your representative. And of course, you're not going to get all the representatives to agree with you all the time. What you have to do is make sure that you have strong, solid points and that you have proof of those points. Never go in with an issue that you cannot back. But I mean, as soon as if you become to me, a chief shop steward, it's nice if they get in touch with their local legislators. But some chief stewards don't have the courage to do that, or the worther. But you can get Harrisburg to help you. But I think once you get on a chapter level as an officer, then I think you have to make sure that you have some kind of knowledge of who your local people are and what you're going to do to help the union.